Hi everyone, and welcome to my presentation at the AWL Southwest Conference 2021. It's really lovely to be here with you, and I really hope that you find this presentation useful whenever you access it, at whatever time of day and night. The power of technology in the pandemic is amazing, isn't it? So, I'm sure you all know me, but if I just give a little bit of introduction. So my name is Joe Dale, and I'm a former languages teacher. I taught French for 13 years, 3 years at secondary school level and 10 years at middle school level on the Isle of Wight, 9 to 13-year-olds. And that's where I still live, and I've been living here for 20 years. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been an independent languages consultant. And since March of last year, I've had to turn my business on its head and make a living through essentially doing webinars with schools and organisations and universities and secondary schools, literally all over the world. So it's been an absolute pleasure to do that. And thank goodness I'm lucky enough to be able to still make a living in these very difficult times. My Twitter handle is there, which again, I'm sure you all know, but if you're not following me and you'd like to, feel free to follow me. I've got over 31,000 followers now, which is a little bit silly, but there we are. I've been on Twitter for 13 years, and it just shows what you can do if you have a bit of free time on your hands, and you can share a few links and big people up as well, which is something I'm a big fan of. My email address is jodel@talk21.com. If you want to contact me after today, you'd be more than welcome, no problem at all. I'm going to be sharing the link to my presentation as I normally do on the last slide. So if you want to contact me about anything that you're watching, the great thing about doing this sort of asynchronous video means that you can press the pause button and make notes or try something out yourself or whatever it might be. So I hope you find this useful. This particular session I thought it'd be a good idea to look at some ideas around retrieval practice, which is very much au fait at the moment, even though I think language teachers have been doing this for years and years and years. And quizzing tools, which again is a really great way of testing understanding with students in a formative assessment situation, and something which I was certainly being asked right from the word go: how do we do formative assessment, or how do we do testing with students, either formative or summative, right from the start of lockdown, the first lockdown number 1. Okay, so let's make a start and let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so when we're talking about retrieval practice, someone who's immediately comes to mind is Kate Jones. So Kate Jones is now based in the Middle East. She's from Wales initially, and she's written a couple of books all around retrieval practice. The second version, or Retrieval Practice 2, has only just come out. I haven't read either of the books, but I believe that they're very good. And this particular tweet is around a technology checklist which Kate has put together. So I thought this would be a good idea to start off with this. As you can see, I've got the links to each reference which I'm making in this particular presentation, as I normally do in my presentations. So you can see that you've got Kate's Twitter handle there, Kate Jones _teach, and you can then click on that to access this particular technology checklist. And I've also put in a reference to her book as well, the first one, and you if you go onto Amazon, you'll be able to find out the reference to the second one as well, I'm sure. So as you can see, what Kate has written is, when using technology for retrieval practice, which a lot of schools will be doing with remote learning, as I've said already, these are my 3 top tips to consider. So, first of all, low stakes. Does the online tool provide opportunities for low stakes quizzing and retrieval? So, low stake testing is something which lots of people have been talking about. I remember reading a blog post by Jose Picado recently, whereby he was talking about using Quizlet on a regular basis, like say 10 minutes a lesson, just to test vocabulary, to remind the children of what they can remember. And retrieval practice, essentially, as I've said, language teachers have been doing this for many, many years. It allows the students to go into their long-term memory and to remember content, vocabulary, grammar structures that they have done previously, and bring it back to the front of their mind. So as a result of that, it will then embed their understanding better into their long-term memory. That's the whole point of doing regular quizzing, low stakes testing, and retrieval practice. The second checklist that Kate has put together is this one: workload friendly. Will the online tool support your workload with low effort, high impact? That is something which is incredibly important at the moment. Everybody is very, very busy. Lots of people have been saying they've never worked harder in their life, me included. And one thing that people are looking for, in addition to all the tools that they want to use being free, is that they don't have a big learning curve on how to use them. But at the same time, I must say that I think it's been very impressive. It's been a silver lining of the pandemic, the way in which language teachers have come together, in particular the MFL Twitterati. A lot of people who are speaking at this event today or during this week, when people can access the videos, most of them are part of the MFL Twitterati family. So that's really, really wonderful to see. And I think that by everybody working together, you can immediately support each other. You can immediately cut down on the amount of time it takes to find out the best tool for doing a particular job you're trying to do, be it retrieval practice or what have you. And that's been lovely to see. Also, I must say the Association for Language Learning has been incredible, supporting all the different Tilt webinars that myself and my friend Helen Myers have put together. As of the start of the pandemic, March 2020, we've done something like over 80 webinars so far, all of which are free, and you can catch the recordings on my YouTube channel, which is JoeDale100, as well as on the AWL London website as well. Okay, and then the last point that Kate makes is user-friendly. Again, this is incredibly important to make it as easy as possible for the teachers and the students to access the tool, so they're not spending an hour, let's say, going over how to use a tool, because obviously we're focusing on language learning, not on tech support or learning how to use a tech tool or a web app or whatever it might be. That said, I would say that what's been really, again, nice to see is teachers using a sort of a core group of tools. For example, a tool for screencasting or for presenting or for video conferencing or what have you. And there have been lots of different groups on Facebook, as well as the MFL Twitterati groups, such as the one teaching MFL with Teams, and the Facebook group for Google Classroom for MFL teachers that Samantha Broom has set up, and then the Teams one is Jenny O'Reilly Turner has set up, and these are very much appreciated by the community and have thousands and thousands of members. I think approximately between 4,000 to 5,000 members in each group, as well as the AWL secondary MFL Matters groups and various other groups as well, where people are helping each other, supporting each other during this very difficult time. So it's really lovely to see. So if you're thinking about using retrieval practice, I think this technology checklist is something which you should find useful. Okay, again, I found this on the TS Resource Bank by Celeste Robillard, who published this last year even. As you can see, this is based on the book by Kate Jones, and if you click on the link underneath, you'll be able to see her resource pack, which she's put together around different practical ideas on using retrieval practice in the languages classroom. So there's really something for everybody there. So again, I would encourage you to check that out and share your outcomes on Twitter. Another resource which I thought I would share as well is this particular chat that happened quite recently, the NUKEdChat community. If you're not aware of them, they're very, very dynamic and really happy to share ideas with each other from across the curriculum, not languages specific, but there was a particular chat around retrieval practice which took place last year, and as you can see, the tweets from that chat are available at the bottom of this slide. So you can see I put two separate threads in there, and Kate Jones was actually hosting that chat, which is fantastic. Big shout out to Bex Nobes as well, who does the MFL chat on a Monday night. Absolutely amazing to see how that's grown over the years. Really, really wonderful to see. And you can see as well, there's a banner there top right, the NUKEdChat online conference. And I know there's a few language teachers, including the keynote for this event, Susie Buell, who's talking at the NUKEdChat online conference, as well as other stars, Sonia Fedrizi, and other people within the MFL Twitterati community. So there's so much going on, so many people are sharing ideas. Absolutely brilliant. I also really enjoyed Bex Nobes' Instagram Live as well recently. That was wonderful. Lovely to see with Kate Languages, and yeah, that was just lovely. So many people sharing cool ideas at the moment. This is really, really hot off the press. This was in the last couple of days. Kirstie Dixon, who's an assistant principal at a school up in Yorkshire, who wrote about retrieval practice, and in her tweet, she's saying, this is my first blog post. She's been very brave to put this out there, which is lovely. And of course, the language teaching community are very supportive, and so have given her lots of lovely feedback around her blog post. But again, if you're looking at digging down more into the research behind retrieval practice, then that's a really good starting point, I would suggest. But in general, I would say that taking the 10-minute challenge, which I refer to quite a lot, which is when you search for MFL Twitterati plus a keyword while having a cup of coffee or the beverage of your choice. If you were to put in a search for MFL Twitterati, which is MFL Twitterati plus a keyword such as retrieval practice, then you will find lots of very generous people in the language teaching community sharing ideas around retrieval practice, particularly if you click on the media option, and then you get all the photos coming up showing examples of how people are putting this into practice. And I would really encourage you not only to look at the ideas and put them into practice, but also to get in touch with the people who've shared those ideas and thank them, and maybe ask them some more questions about exactly how they're doing this and how it's enhancing teaching and learning, which is, of course, what this is all about. So thank you for Kirstie for being brave, being 20% braver, and writing this blog post. It's wonderful to see. Okay, so one way in which we can use or harness retrieval practice in the classroom is by using a tool like Mentimeter. Mentimeter, I don't think was that well known a few years ago, but certainly a lot of people have been using it recently. And it's a brilliant tool. It's completely free to use. You can you used to be able to create up to 3 slides for free, but I was told recently in the last few days that the option which used to come up, which was when you try to create your 3rd slide, you're asked to put in the email address of a friend, and if you would sort of make up an email address like mickey@mickeymouse.com, then that would always work, and you could have your 3 slides for free and unlimited numbers of presentation that you can make. That unfortunately is not possible anymore, so you can only, for free, you can only have 2 slides, but then you can make as many presentations as you would like to. So Mentimeter is a little bit like PowerPoint in the way that you can create different types of activities, such as word clouds. You can see an example of that bottom right, which I created at a presentation or a national conference, should I say, Modern Foreign Languages National Conference back in 2018. And there were, I think, something like 250 people in the room at the time, back in the days when we had face-to-face conferences. And as you can see, I asked the question, how can you assess how your school can effectively integrate apps and online resources to promote pupil engagement and develop out-of-school learning? And you can see lots and lots of different tools were mentioned and different ideas. And the larger the word, the more frequent it's being used. You can see that Quizlet and Memrise were some of the most popular answers that came out there. So from a point of view of retrieval practice, you could ask a question at the start of a lesson. What did you do last week? What did you do last month around a particular topic, let's say? And then everyone can then post their answers onto the screen. If a child puts an inappropriate answer there, what you can do is you can click on the floating toolbar, which appears bottom left of the screen when you're running Mentimeter, and you just close the voting, and then when you click on any of the items that appear in the word cloud, they will suddenly miraculously disappear. There's also a profanity filter as well, which you can enable, and you can embed Mentimeter into PowerPoint, which if you weren't at the PowerPoint party last Monday, which would have been Monday the 15th of February, you can check that out on Helen Meyer's YouTube channel. All the sort of workshopy clinic sessions are on Helen's YouTube channel, and all the presentations are on my channel. And in general, all the different presentations or what have you, also on the AWL London website as well. So Jérôme Nog, JENOMFL on Twitter, very kindly showed us how you can embed a Mentimeter into PowerPoint. Also, top left of this screen, you've got Jude talking about using Mentimeter in what's called the open-ended question option. She's using the imperfect plus the conditional structure. For example, if I owned Microsoft, I would be rich. If I was good at French, I would be happy, and so on and so forth. On the right of that, you've got Karen, who's based in Spain at the moment, using Mentimeter for the classic my back hurts because, and then people giving different answers. Bottom left, you've got Andres, who's a teacher in Malaysia, a Spanish teacher, and he's using the image option as a prompt, whereby you have 9 different dogs expressing different emotions, and you're supposed to say which dog refers most to how you're feeling at the time. I think Mentimeter is brilliant for checking well-being with students at the start of the lesson, and this one is using a bar graph activity, and as you can see, the word cloud that I was talking about moments ago on the right hand side there, bottom right. So this is an example of how you can use this. So I've asked the question many times, either how do you feel about remote teaching your classes, or how do you feel about hybrid teaching, depending on whether we're in lockdown or whether we're back teaching face to face. And you can see that different answers have come up. So as I said, if there was an inappropriate answer there, I could just click on the stop voting toolbar, bottom left of the screen, and then I can then click on any of the items and it will disappear. So it's a really, really safe and easy tool to use. It is designed to be anonymous. You don't know who it is who's written something. So if there is an issue around that, or a particular class that you think might muck around, I wouldn't recommend using Mentimeter with that class. But in general, it's really, really nice for testing retrieval practice, as well as essentially gauging the temperature in the room, for capturing the zeitgeist, and to see how your students are feeling, and promoting student voice. This is a blog post which is on the Mentimeter website, just going through what I've talked about a couple of times already, about how you can remove inappropriate content from word clouds and from the open-ended questions, which is really useful to keep everyone safe and not allow people to muck around. This is an example, again, how you can share a Mentimeter. This is just an example. This is not an actual one which I'm running right now, but you can see that the code appears on the screen. You just go to menti.com, put in the code which is displayed. Each presentation has its own separate code. You can also put in a nice big QR code as well if you want to on the screen, which helps you to make it even easier. If children want to scan the QR code, then you can do that as well. I would recommend using a website such as qrcodemonkey.com, which I use all the time for making my QR codes. It's really easy. You can even color code them as well if you want to, which is great. Okay, another tool which I'm going to talk about now, which is great for retrieval practice and allows you to create sort of mini whiteboards on a screen, is spiral.ac. Now, I know a lot of people heard about spiral.ac at the language show last year, which, as we all know, was online, as this event is right now. And those were all presentations delivered live. But I don't know if you know, but if you go onto the YouTube channel for the language show, you can watch all the recorded sessions over the 3 days that happened back in November last year. And you can watch all of them. Now, one of the presentations I would particularly recommend is the one by Esmeralda Salgado, who's been an absolute stalwart during the whole pandemic. And if you haven't checked out her blog, then it's amazing. It's mflcraft.blogspot.com. And the other person I would give a big shout out to is Jane Bassnett, who's BassnettJ on Twitter. As you can see, Esmeralda is Botones Salgado on Twitter. And Jane's blog is whatjanelearntnext.blogspot.com. And I would say those two people are the leading people who are languages teachers in relation to Microsoft in the whole of the UK. And likewise for Google, you've got Samantha Broom, who I mentioned already, Spanish Sam, and Darren White as well, Ranga the trainer, who are amazing with anything to do with Google. And we've had we've had one Google clinic or workshop with Samantha and with Darren, and we've had about 6, I think, with Microsoft people interested in Microsoft tools, including Esmeralda and Jane and other amazing people like Adeline Muston and Julia Morris and Esther as well. So just amazing people. So grateful that everyone is here supporting each other. So Esmeralda did a presentation around different, she did 2 presentations, but the stickability beyond the classroom one is the one that mentioned spiral.ac, which we all heard about at the show and tell event, which happened the day before on the Saturday night, which is a traditional activity that we do that is organised by AWL, and it's myself and Helen Myers who organise it. And this is obviously a virtual version. And Laura Causer, Causer, Laura Causer from the Middle East, she presented about Spiral.ac. So as a result of watching Laura's presentation, Esmeralda went in straight away and included, as she does, straight in her presentation. Now let's go on to the next slide. So this is the particular recording from the show and tell where Laura goes over how to use Spiral. So if you haven't seen Spiral before, it's a way of creating sort of mini whiteboards that you can then use straight away in the classroom for retrieval practice, for practicing grammar ideas or text ideas. So it's text only, and it's really, really nice from the point of view of being able to, as you can see, some takeaways on the screen that Laura has shared with us, a really nice way of replicating mini whiteboards. So when we first went into lockdown, one thing that people wanted to know is either how to make a collaborative whiteboard using things like Microsoft Whiteboard or Jamboard, the Google equivalent, or to have mini whiteboards, and Spiral along with whiteboard.fi, which I'll talk about more later, really tick that box, I think. So as you can see, this is a resource that Laura's put together, which you can download from the link at the bottom there, the Google Drive link. And you can see lots of different ways that you can use it. One of the things I particularly like is the correct option, which allows you to click on correct, and anyone who's written the same answer it'll all be marked correct. So it's a great time saver. But there's also the improve option, which means that individual people who've written something on the screen, they can then edit it and improve it. So for example, if they've forgotten a capital letter at the start of the sentence, or they haven't put a full stop at the end, or the teacher wants them to add a better description or an adjective or justification of an opinion, and so on and so forth. So that's really wonderful to see. This is a tweet by Miss West MFL, who's done a little tutorial around using Spiral. So you can see there are 5 different activity types that you can do with Spiral, which is going to be completely free during the pandemic, apparently, from the Spiral team. And the tools which have, or the exercises which have proved particularly popular are the quickfire light one, which requires no preparation at all. Each student gets their own mini whiteboard, writes the answer on the screen, and then the teacher can then click either improve or correct. The quickfire one to the right of that is similar, but you actually can write out the questions, as many questions as you want, I believe, and then you can then go through them at the pace that you would like. So that's a similar type of activity. And the discuss, team up and clip options give you other possibilities, which again I would connect with people on the MFL Twitter RT hashtag to ask them exactly how they've been using it. But I've certainly focused so far on the quickfire light ones. You have to create as many classes as you want. Each class gets their own code. You give the code to the students. They're then straight in, no preparation required, certainly for the quickfire light one. And you can then test their retrieval practice really, really easily. So that's fantastic. This is a video tutorial that Esmeralda has put together. Do check out her YouTube channel because she's got lots of different helpful tutorials on different ideas. One of her current interests is deck toys. We did a Tilt webinar with the amazing Jimena Licitra on Saturday, and who was talking about deck toys. And do check out that as well as Esmeralda's video tutorial on deck toys. But Spiral, as you can see, you've got the correct and the improve option on the screen, and you've got her YouTube link there as well. So, and you can see the code top right as well, how it works. You can also hide the answers, hide the names, so that's really useful as well. So you're not showing all the answers and everyone's just copying what other people have done. You hide the answers until you choose to reveal them. Okay, so this is the blog by Jane Bassnett, What Jane Learnt Next. She has written many, many blog posts, as has Esmeralda, during the pandemic, sharing her pedagogy, sharing her good practice, which is just wonderful to see. And this one is particularly looking at ways in which you can engage online learners using tools such as Spiral.ac. And this is the home page. So you can see, you just go to Spiral.ac, you log in, it's free to log in. You do have to create an account, but the children don't need an account. And it gives you some nice analytics as well. It says how many right answers people have got and how long they've been on and so on and so forth. Okay, another tool which Jane Basnett has been championing as well recently is one called Carousel Learning. This was designed, I think I'm right in saying, by UK educators who are particularly interested in evidence-based teaching. One of whom is, I think I'm right in saying, is Adam Porter. And what Jane has done, she latched onto this straight away, and she's made a number of different Loom videos, so screencasted videos showing how to set this up as a teacher, what a student would then see, how to upload questions, and so on and so forth. And Sarah Noble, who is part of the MFL Twitterati family, has written a recent blog post around how carousel learning can be used in conjunction with retrieval practice. But like with Spiral.ac, what it allows you to do, you have multiple choice questions, but you can allow the students to resubmit their answer to improve on it, as you can with Spiral.ac. So that's really nice to see. And based on evidence, based on the research that's been carried out around this, and you can see on the web page there, it says, how it works, why it works. So you can then look at that to your heart's content. You can then see exactly the research behind why carousel learning is said to be a good idea. So as opposed to just straight multiple choice, the children get the opportunity of going back and testing their answer. So that's really, reviewing their answer. So that's really, really nice, I think. And as you can see, again, it's free to sign up at the moment. So I would go for it and check it out, and check out Jane's videos as well. Quizlet is something which I referred to already. It's a staple, isn't it, in the language teacher's arsenal. Really nice the way in which you've got the text to audio option in Quizlet. The fact you've got Quizlet Live, which has proved really nice for retrieval practice at the end of a lesson, finishing the lesson on a bang, for example, is great. But if you haven't tried out the text to speech option within Quizlet, I'd really encourage you to do that. It's a nice way of practicing pronunciation asynchronously and for encouraging autonomous learning. Quizlet Live, I've seen a few people in the MFL Twitterati talking about this since the start of the pandemic. For example, Miss Cook MFL, who works at Rainford High. You can see there, she's tweeted, very proud of all the Year 7 pupils who are working hard at home and learning the vocabulary. This is during the lockdown 1. Over 90 joined us today on Quizlet Live, which is lovely. So what Miss Cook does, and Rainford High in general do, is they create the Quizlet Live session, they share the code via, in their case, Show My Homework, but of course you could do that via Teams or Google Classroom, and then everyone then goes on together synchronously and takes part in an activity. So lots of people have shared ideas around sort of top tips on remote teaching lessons in languages from the MFL Twitterati. Again, you can find that very easily on my Twitter account just by searching for top tips MFL Twitterati remote teaching. And one of the top tips was to finish the lesson with a bang, with activities such as Quizlet Live or Quizizz and so on and so forth. Bottom left, you've got Matt Morris there talking about optional game of Quizlet Live to earn some bonus points, not as loud as in the classroom, but still just as fun. Interestingly, he split the screen in that particular example. There's various ways of splitting the screen, which can be a game changer as well for people. So in the case of Google Meet, you can then see the students while you're taking part in the activity, as opposed to having two screens, which I'm very lucky to have, but obviously not everyone has access to two screens. But you can do that using a Chrome extension such as Dualless, which is DUALLESS, or Tab Resize, or Tab Scissors and Tab Glue, which work together. Or you can come in on a second device on your on an iPad or a mobile device and see the chat while you are accessing the screen on your first device. So again, these sorts of questions are coming up all the time on the Teams and the Google Classroom Facebook groups that I've referred to already. Shubrinus MFL, setting different times for their Quizlet Live sessions for different year groups. That's also really nice to see as well. And why not? So Quizizz, which I've talked about already. I know that Kate Jones, she's a big fan of Quizizz. I think I'm right in saying that she says that Quizizz is her favourite retrieval practice tool. You can see in the text above, it's a free formative assessment tool which lets you generate multiple choice checkbox, fill in the blank poll and open-ended questions. And they can be done synchronously and asynchronously. Lots of tools have been adapted since the start of the pandemic including Quizlet, including Quizizz, including Gimkit and Kahoot. So they can be done either synchronously or asynchronously through assignments, which is really nice to see as well. So here again, I've put in some screenshots of different people in the MFL Twitterati sharing about the use of Quizizz. So you can see, for example, that Forest_MFL have said Year 8 just played a marvellous Quizizz to finish off our lesson this morning, exactly what I've been saying a moment ago. Corinne Longman saying, love a good Quizizz at the end of a live lesson with my AS students to recap the future antérieur. King's Ely, which is where Esmeralda is head of department, saying that they're using it for self-assessment exercise, which is great. Casey Lockett, who at the time was based in Beijing, is now in the southwest of England as the head of department. And I love this. She's saying, quote from a student after using Quizizz for the first time, I'm loving it. And on seeing the data at the end, oh, that's cool. You can send that to our parents. And then again, Andres, who I mentioned already, he's a big fan of Bitmojis. And he's showing how you can make your own memes in Quizizz, which are the images which pop up when the children need a bit of encouragement. And you can have that in the target language, which is wonderful as well. If you don't know how to change the Chrome extension for Bitmoji into different languages, it's really simple to do. All you do is you click on the 3 dots top right in Chrome, you click on the settings option, you then click on advanced on the left hand side, you click on languages, you then add your language if you haven't done that already, the language you want your Bitmoji to be in. If your language is there, you then click on the 3 dots to the right of that language and you click move to top. Having done that, when you then click on the Chrome extension, you'll see that all the text is then in that target language, which is lovely to see. Okay, one of the things I particularly liked about Quizizz, and still like about it, but it was free and is now a premium version using what's called their super tier, which is adding audio questions in Quizizz. So you can now have asynchronous listening comprehension practice with Quizizz for free. You can do this for sort of reading and writing, just standard multiple choice, which can be set synchronously or asynchronously. But if you do pay for the super tier, which I think is about £70 for the year, then you have access to audio questions, and the links to how to do that are at the bottom there. But this was a session that I did, the screenshots that I did last year for the British Council in Indonesia. And I think we had something like 700 people watching live, which is a little bit crazy, but it coped really, really well with it. So that was lovely to see. Case in point, I was talking a moment ago about the fact that different web apps have risen to the challenge of making their tools work asynchronously as well as synchronously. So you can, for example, create a live quiz with Quizizz, but you can also create a homework. So as I said, you could create a asynchronous homework assignment practicing listening, and you can record, I think I might be saying up to 10 seconds per listening, but it might be with a super tier that you can actually record for longer now. And you can set the deadline and so on and so forth. So that's lovely. Gimkit, which is sort of similar to Kahoot and Quizizz, but has this sort of gamification element whereby you can earn different dollars and you can get more dollars if you take more risks, or you try and answer questions which are more difficult, and so on and so forth. Again, we've covered this in various Tilt webinars, but I would just go for it and try it out. Lots of Gimkit fans, including Vincent Everett, who's a stalwart of AWL. He's a big fan of Gimkit, so do ask him for his top tips on using Gimkit. Here are some Gimkit assignments, so instructions on how to do that, how to create an assignment, and so on and so forth. And I know one of the things that people like about Gimkit is the way in which they keep adding different sort of novelty versions of Gimkit, which is something which I'm sure young people find very engaging. Kahoot, I'm sure everyone knows, but did you know that you can also have Kahoot challenges, which is the equivalent of assignments in the other tools that I mentioned already, so they can be done independently. So that's another nice thing to have a look at. This is a slide showing more details about the assignments that you can create. So they are student paced, which is lovely. And again, you've got the links there to have a look at. Glenn Cake, who has been distance teaching for many, many years. He's from Canada, and he did a fantastic Tilt webinar for us back in April called That's Edutainment, whereby he demonstrates tools such as Kahoot. He also shows us WordWall, which I think at the time was not that well known. So WordWall allows you to have up to 5 exercises for using a free account. But if you want more than that, then you have to then pay. You have to check out how much that is on the site. But again, that's a really quick and easy way of checking out or creating activities which require no preparation, hardly any time at all. And it's wonderful. If you go onto YouTube as well and you do a search for word wall and Russell Stannard is Stannard, and Russell has created lots and lots of different videos around the use of educational technology in the context of learning English. But of course, lots of the ideas can be replicated in MFL lessons as well. And he's done a full explanation on how to use word wall, and I know he's a big fan of word wall as well, so I would check out his channel. I'd also check out the channel by a teacher from the States called Sam Carey. Carey is Kary, and his YouTube channel is called the NUKEdChat Classroom. And again, he's done lots of tutorials around remote teaching ideas using free edtech tools. So lots of amazing people out there. Likewise, Ceri is also an amazing person. Ceri Anwen James, who is an assistant head teacher based in Cardiff at Broeden, Ysgol Broeden, which is a first language Welsh school. And she did a fantastic webinar for us back in May called Interactive Quizzing for Distance Learning, when again we did a lot of these activities that I've talked about, but we did them live and we had a lot of fun doing that, and her presentation is really lovely, which she shared with us as well. Again, all these details you can check out on the AWL London website. Blooket, which is a new one on the block, which I only heard about quite recently. Similar to Quizizz and such like, you can import your Quizlet sets as well into Blooket, and it's very much of like a game-based approach. Gold Quest, I believe, is particularly popular. The way that the students can steal gold from the teacher, you can imagine that goes down well. Racing is another one which I've seen many tweets about, with different screenshots of racing and so on and so forth. So again, I would encourage you to have a look at that. This is Simona sharing about how Blooket can be used for retrieval practice, and she's Simo Grav on Twitter. Okay, another one which you may not have thought about is Duolingo for schools. So the schools version of this is still completely free. David Shanks very kindly did a webinar for AWL London branch back in 2017. David has been using Duolingo for schools for a while now, as well as other people like Adam Vickery as well. And I'd really encourage you to ask them about how they're using it. David has been setting up competitions in his school, in his different schools, across the Harris Federation, and really, great thing to do to motivate young people in language learning, whereby they can independently practice, and all their different answers will go up onto their leaderboard. So again, if you watch the video there, it will go through how to set that up. Memrise, again, a popular favourite which has been around for many years, is a nice different another way of creating your own courses, your own bespoke content. Simple to use. You can also use other people's courses as well, but easy to access, and another staple. Learningapps.org, which has proved really popular recently amongst people in the MFL Twitterati. People like Esmeralda has been talking about it a lot, and how you can embed it into a Genially and so on and so forth. Completely free is learningapps.org, and it allows you to create activities such as matching and gap fills, and you can be creative. You can embed a YouTube clip into your gap fill. I've seen examples of that from different people, and that's been lovely to see. So you can make it into like a listening comprehension activity. This has been very kindly put together by Julia Morris, Jushmo on Twitter, who's based in Millfield in the southwest of England. And as you can see here, she's put together all the different activity types that you can do, such as matching pairs and number lines and simple orders and so on and so forth. So another great sharer of materials. Julia's also got an escape rooms book out, which if you go onto Amazon, you can find it very easily. I'm sure she'll give you the link as well if you ask her. Back in January, so almost straight away that we went into lockdown, we decided, as we did in March of last year, to start up the Tilt webinars, or carry them on with a new set of webinars, and we decided to do some show and tell ones. So we did part 1 and part 2 the first Saturday after we went into lockdown. we did this one, which had 4 different people talking about different ideas, including learning apps, which Esmeralda led on. And then in the second one, the week after, we did some more sessions, for example, looking at Blooket. So there's a session about Carousel Learning that Jane Bassnett, Esmeralda did learning apps, and Adeline Mostyn did a session as well, and so on and so forth. So do check out these recordings. They're completely available for free, and you should find them really useful. Another idea around retrieval practice is using Google Forms. I put this together last year, having been inspired by my friend Chris Betcher, who's Betcher Boy on Twitter. Nothing to do with languages. He's an Australian teacher who does lots of work around Google, and he put together a Google form called Quiz Questions Galore, which essentially showcased different exercise types that you can use with Google Forms. I was really inspired by that, so I thought I'd make my own version based on the sorts of activities that language teachers like to do, which is what I did, and you can access that via the link at the bottom. I shared this link in lots of places on Twitter and social media and Facebook groups, and this is an example of a Spanish teacher who took on board some of the ideas, as well as some other ideas which have been promoted by Dr. Gianfranco Conti, such as narrow reading. So you can see that on the right hand side there, where you've got 5 different texts with slight differences in each one, and then the answer is the idea is that the students then write in using the short answer option for each one the differences between that text compared to other texts. You've also got a sentence builder as well, which is very fashionable at the moment. I know there's a new website coming out quite soon, which looks amazing, sentencebuilders.com I think it is, which is a collaboration between Martin Lapworth and Gianfranco Conti. So here's a screenshot of a sentence builder there, and that allows you to, again, use that as the starting point to then complete the different activities. You've also got the multiple choice with images option, which I talked about in my original Google form, and so on and so forth. Okay, Jane again, the wonderful Jane Bassnett, who wrote a blog post around Microsoft quizzes, saying how they can be good for deeper learning, embedding knowledge, and for retrieval practice. So again, I would encourage you to have a look at that one, and how you can make forms for sort of things like polls and surveys, as well as quizzes which are self-marking. This is a really lovely video tutorial by the amazing Gloria Enrique, Miss G Enrique on Twitter, who is a Spanish native speaker who's based in Tullamore College in Tullamore, should I say, not Tullamore College, in Tullamore in Ireland. And I'm delighted to say that she's going to be doing a Tilt webinar for us as well on using Microsoft Forms for assessment purposes, which is going to be amazing. And in this particular video tutorial, she talks about how you can insert audio, as I talked about in the Google form, and given instruction on how to do that. So you can create listening comprehension activities by embedding audio into your Microsoft form, which is lovely. Here's Esmeralda Salgado. I see that I've missed the T off the Bitmoji. Apologies for that. But here Esmeralda is talking about how you can create a Bitmoji character, put it into an app such as Photospeak. There's also Chatterpix Kid, and there's also iFunface as well, which works on iOS and on Android. And that allows you to make your any picture speak. So obviously in the case of Bitmoji, a Bitmoji image, you can make that speak. And so she records her voiceover. She then uploads the video into YouTube and puts the YouTube clip into her Microsoft quiz, which then makes it into a self-marking listening comprehension option, which is just lovely. Okay. I'd also, just to go back a second, I think I've missed out a particular slide, which is not a problem at all. But Mike Tolson, who I've mentioned already, I think. No, sorry, I haven't mentioned already. Anyway, Mike Tolson, who works for Microsoft in the education department, he on YouTube has done a video clip all around 25 ways of using forms, which I would really encourage you to have a look at. He goes through some of the new features like the Likert, which is Likert, the Likert exercise option, which is a little bit like having sort of different possible answers that you can give in the form of a grid. You can do the same thing in a Google form, and like in a Google form as well, you can upload content as well straight into the form, and you can choose the format. So it could be, for example, if you want the children to submit audio, you can then get them to upload the audio using that upload feature into a Microsoft form. So that's wonderful to see as well. Esmeralda has also written a blog post around retrieval practice and given some ideas there as well, based on research by Mark Enser and other luminaries in the field. So that's Esmeralda's blog, MFL Craft. Socrative is another free tool which allows you to do no preparation quizzing using true or false or multiple choice or short answer. I'm a particular fan of the short answer one, whereby you can vote for your favourite one, which is going to be really good for highlighting maybe misconceptions, or just because something is popular doesn't mean it's right. As an answer, you've also got a screenshot there of a article that was written in The Guardian by William Strange, who at the time, I'm not sure if he's still there, worked at Harrogate Grammar School, saying after a short amount of teaching on a particular grammar point, students might then complete an interactive quiz using Socrative. This is really useful for assessment for learning strategy, as the results are collated and fed back to the teacher automatically via email. Lots of these other tools like Kahoot and Quizizz also give you the export option into Excel, which is lovely to see as well. Likewise, you've got the Harrogate Grammar School MFL department account saying using Socrative to check understanding of grammar, reports show patterns of common problems, and exit tickets great for gaining individual feedback. Those are the days when you only had 140 characters, so you had to be more careful about what you wrote, as opposed to the luxury of having twice that number of characters now. You've also got Hawthorne Languages there, who's using the space race quiz, which is another nice way of finishing a lesson with a bang, with this sort of space race activity, whereby you've got the multiple choice questions, and it's the rocket or the unicorn or the bee that hits the right hand side first, which is lovely to see as well. And then back in the day when Socrative first sort of came out, people in the MFL Twitterati were sharing codes on different quizzes that they created, so that is easy to do. Each Socrative quiz comes with its own code, or SOC code, which again, if you wanted to, you could then put together a Google Sheet or equivalent and ask everybody to share their codes all together, so it then reduces the amount of time that these things make. I know that Jérôme Nogue and Jane Bassnett are fans of putting together some Excel spreadsheets and sharing them on Wakelet as a way of cutting down time for creating different activity types using things like Kahoot and quizzes and so on and so forth. So again, if you check that out by searching on Twitter, you'll be able to find the links to Wakelet. If you haven't seen Wakelet before, it's a really lovely way of co-creating content together and collecting links so they're all in the same space. This is how you launch Socrative. You just go to the teacher login, you create your account, you create a room number, you give that to the children, and then away you go to create your different activity types and so on and so forth. Okay, right, so as you can see here, I had the following question. Here's a good question. What do you think is the best digital tool to give exams, and how can we kill two birds with one stone by benefiting from online learning in a way that will help students improve self-awareness and academic honesty? This is a clinic session that I was doing for a school in Turkey that I'm working with during the pandemic, called the Koç School, which is K-O-C with a cedilla. That's why it's pronounced Koç, the Koç School in Istanbul. And they were asking me lots of questions, which I was also posing on Twitter. And these were some of the answers that we got in, which was lovely to see. Okay, so one way in which you can do summative assessments, which is something which came up a lot when I was first being approached about ideas around remote teaching. That came up a lot. So here are some of the solutions. As you can see, in April, I tweeted, "Hey MFL Twitterati, has anyone got any bright ideas on how to do a summative assessment writing task in a remote teaching context and ensure that students don't use Google Translate to complete it?" In other words, keeping them honest, as was said in the previous slide. And I said, very honestly, I'm stumped. And there are a few answers that came through from the community, which was lovely. One of which is exam.net, which up until the end of last year was for free to use. I believe it's a paying resource now, so that might put people off, but it is something which allows you to monitor your keyboard, monitor the student's keyboard while they're doing an assessment. You can upload a PDF as well as MP3 files for listening comprehension activities. You can get them to force submit their answers. It will see whether they've taken their hands off the keyboard, so it's good from that point of view as well. On the right hand side there, you've got my friend Francois Stolder, who is based at the American International School of Budapest, and he came up with the idea of getting the children to point their cameras at their hands and then writing out their answers on a piece of paper and then scanning them and uploading them to Google Classroom. I recommend using a tool such as Office Lens for this, or there are various ways of doing this, but the nice thing about that is the fact that you can then turn a number of different photos into one PDF. You can upload it, and then if you're using the Google Classroom app, you can then mark up or annotate over the top of the PDF automatically. You could also use a tool such as Screencastify to get the students to record their screen, but then you're limited to only say 5 minutes in the case of Screencastify. With Loom, it's unlimited if you get the Pro account, which is free to get. There's also a new screencasting tool, which I think not that many people know of, called Screenity, which is Screenity, Screenity, and that's unlimited, which is just wonderful. And of course, you could get the students to maybe record themselves in something like Zoom as well and then send you the video, but that's a bit of a faff. And of course, what you do if the students weren't turned on their video cameras as well, so that's another issue as well. I'm just going to quickly play you some audio here, which was created by a teacher called Mary, who's an Italian teacher in Australia. I've done a few sessions for the Victorian Association of Teachers of Italian, and Mary very kindly recorded this for me, which I'm going to play for you right now, and I hope you'll be able to hear it. Here we go.
Hi there, my name is Mary Manfield. I'm a senior English, Humanities and Italian teacher, and I've just recently discovered the exam.net program through one of Joe Dale's amazing webinars. I've recently used it in class with my seniors as well as my junior students, and I found it really fantastic. I used it for my Year 9 class for a timed English essay whereby they were given a topic and they had a timed piece, and at the end of that time they were kicked out, and I was able to sync their essays to go straight to Google Drive, which made it super easy to correct. And once I corrected them, I could send them back to their email addresses with all their corrections, which made it a lot more efficient than normal. I also did a listening track. So my husband and I recorded a role play, and my senior students got to listen to that and answer questions in the time piece as well. And more recently, we did a vocabulary test with my Year 8s, and they were translating some terms in either English or Italian. I found this program to be really engaging and super efficient. They can't cheat. They get blocked out if they cheat, and the computer will tell me what they're doing, which is fantastic. So I think it's a great program to have for those who do online learning or for universities or other schools, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I look forward to seeing what other things I can do with using that program.
Okay, so I was very grateful to Mary for doing that for me. That's lovely. And the last couple of suggestions as well, if you're working in a Google environment, is there are some Google Chrome extensions called Draftback and DocuViz. You can see the screenshots there on the screen. And essentially they work in similar ways. They just use the Google Doc history in order to see very clearly in a visual way if a student has copy and pasted a big chunk of language from, say, Google Translate straight into the document. It also shows you through timestamps on when that's been done and how many changes there have been. So if there has been a big lump of text just pasted in, it's very clear to see that. So that works in a Google environment. I don't know if there's an equivalent in Microsoft, but I do know that the Insights add-on in Microsoft Teams gives you lots of analytic data which you can then have a look at. So that might be very helpful as well for that sort of situation. Okay, and then coming towards the end, another way of using the equivalent of Microsoft Office Lens, which is now called Microsoft Presenter, if I remember correctly. It's changed it from it's no longer called Microsoft Office Lens. It's got a different. Sorry, that's what it's called. I think it's called just Microsoft Lens now. Actually, thinking about it. So one way of being able to get content straight into Teams is either by using the Microsoft Lens app, or you can also use the camera in the OneDrive app as well, which is shared there by Dulcie Decorum, Dee Branson, who's the head of department in sort of the West Midlands area. and Wydeen Languages Department have talked about how easy and free they find the Office Lens or the Microsoft Lens app as well. So that's really lovely to see. So you just basically scan the documents, you put it up into Teams, and it goes straight into the file section, and then you can then annotate it from there. So that's great to see as well. Okay. And just a thought, I hope you found this useful, but of course, as I've said, I am an independent languages consultant. I do have to make a living now through doing webinars. So if you would like any help at all with your remote teaching or hybrid teaching, whatever context you find yourselves in, then here are 18 example sessions that I can help you with. You can access this Google Doc via that QR code or at the link at the bottom of this presentation. And there's lots and lots of different ideas there you can put into practice. Do consider asking me to come along to do a session remotely for your department or for your multiple academy trust or your alliance or whatever it might be. I would love to help, and I'm here to help you for free as well as in a paid capacity, because obviously I have to make a living as well as all the things I do for free to help the community. And there we are. There's the presentation. As you can see, it's is.gd/all lessons learnt. You can access that via that short URL. If you click on that, it will then take you to like a white page with black text, and then it has the link in red. So you can click on that and you've got it, or you can scan the QR code and you can then go straight there as well. I sincerely hope you found this useful. I hope that you've got lots of ideas you can consider around retrieval practice and some practical suggestions of tools which help you do that. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and you enjoy accessing the presentations at a time which suits you, because I appreciate how busy everyone is. And so doing it in this sort of asynchronous way is a sign of the times and something to be applauded, I think. I thank the team at AWL Southwest for putting this all together. It's been lovely to be invited to do this, and I hope that you have found this useful, as well as all the other presentations shared very kindly by the MFL Twitterati and AWL more generally. Okay, thank you ever so much for listening, and good luck.